and welcome to Down to Earth. I'm your host, Tracy Slintak. If you're anything like me, you can't get enough of the great outdoors, whether it's at your local park, nature center, or the campground that you visit every year. In this episode of Down to Earth, we're going to show you how to bring a little bit of the great outdoors to your very own backyard with a certified backyard wildlife habitat. Stick around. The National Wildlife Federation began educating the public about backyard habitats, starting with an article in the National Wildlife magazine back in 1973. Based on the overwhelming response, they started the Backyard Habitat Program, educating the public about what they can do to improve wildlife habitat in their very own yards.
Habitat loss is the #1 threat for wildlife, and we're seeing increasingly wildlife are losing their natural habitats due to urban sprawl and fragmented landscapes. We have several habitat programs and opportunities for homeowners, educators, students, and families that include our Backyard Wildlife Habitat Program. And the program basically incorporates the needs of wildlife, what wildlife need to survive. Our role is really the resources, the expertise.
Backyard habitats aren't new to the world of urban or rural bugs, birds, or mammals. Certain features in your yard that you might not even think about, such as the shrubs running along your fence line, the bird bath in your backyard, or the feeder hanging from a tree nearby are already serving as habitat components.
We incorporated a lot of plants and a lot of other things through the National Wildlife Federation program to create our backyard wildlife habitat in our very own backyard here. The criteria for that is you need to have a place for wildlife to have food, water, shelter, and a place to raise their young.
We also look at encouraging people to employ practices that are environmentally friendly and sustainable.
Now we know what the 5 key elements are to a successful backyard habitat. But before you begin, you should assess what your yard already has. That way, it'll be easier when it's time to dig in. To begin, you simply need to see what your yard already has to offer the animal community and then just add to it. For example, do you already have a bird bath or a pond for a water source or a group of evergreens for shelter? Well, it's a start, and you can use this as a basis for your future habitat. There are a multitude of native plants that will need little attention. They also make great food sources to many different animals.
Of course, never take them from the wild, never take them from parks, never take them from other people's property. With the habitat program being more recognized, there are more seed and flower companies and more nurseries that are catering to that hobby.
If you have an old rotten tree stump or dead tree, don't get rid of it just yet. Well, unless it's a possible danger. These make great habitat features for woodpeckers, insects, and cavity nesting birds such as bluebirds. When we come back, we'll learn how to bring those critters in and keep them coming back for more. Don't go away.
And now, here's the dirt. A conventional lawnmower pollutes as much in an hour as driving a car. A, 10 miles, B, 50 miles, or C, 100 miles. We'll be right back with the answer.
When you build your business in Michigan, you really do get the upper hand, like United Solar did. When they needed to expand in order to produce solar cells that worked as roofing shingles and exterior laminates, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation was there to help. They found the resources, incentives, and partnerships to make Unisolar's new facility a reality. Call or log on to see how they could do the same thing for you too. Wherever in the world you compete, Michigan can give you the upper hand.
25,000 mornings, give or take, is all we humans get. We spend them on treadmills, we spend them in traffic, and if we get lucky, really lucky, it dawns on us to go spend them in a world where a simple sunrise can still be magic. 25,000 mornings. Make sure some of them are pure Michigan. Your trip begins at michigan.org.
Now we're back with the dirt on lawnmower pollution. A conventional lawnmower pollutes as much in an hour as driving a car. C, 100 miles. And that's the dirt.
Having some native plants or a few shrubs usually isn't enough to make wildlife stay. So what do we do first? Well, just like humans, the smell of food can bring animals running, or the sound of water.
First of all, whether or not your habitat is going to provide for a specific wildlife species. If you're interested, say, for example, in doing a butterfly garden, well, then you would focus on, okay, what butterflies do I want to attract and what are their food sources? So if you want a butterfly garden and you really love monarchs, you know you're going to need to have milkweed. If you want to attract small mammals or songbirds, you want to have nuts or acorns for squirrels and other small mammals. You want to have berries and other things for songbirds to eat and sustain themselves.
One of the fun things for a habitat is having a water source in your backyard. I mean, we've got anything from a half wine or whiskey barrel with a water lily in it to some little bigger plastic ponds.
The water features serve as a focal point to the garden. They give wildlife a source of drinking water or water to bathe and swim in, and if you have fish, they could also be used as a food source.
You got to take the good with the bad. When you create a wildlife habitat, everything and anything may show up. Large fish that are pretty colored, especially in reds and yellows and golds, can attract things like blue herons, egrets, raccoons, and so some of your fish might disappear, or a few of your fish might end up with holes in them.
We've covered sustenance, food and water. Now let's cover cover. Creating shelter for animals is very important. Shading them from the sun on the really hot days or keeping them dry and warm when the weather changes for the worse. But these shelters protect wildlife from more than just the elements. The closer the cover is to the food and water sources, the safer the animals will feel about your habitat and their possible new home.
Should they get attacked by a predator like a fox or a coyote, which of course needs to eat, the birds can escape into some shelter to get away from them. Not always successfully, but a lot of the time.
Getting out of the rain, heat, or cold isn't the only reason your new wildlife tenants are going to appreciate the safe and cozy cover created by your wildlife habitat, if you know what I mean.
Places to raise young is another requirement for the Backyard Wildlife Habitat Program. Your water, your ponds is an excellent source for frogs and salamanders to raise their young. Adding bluebird nesting boxes, adding a bat box that both provides cover for bats, but a place for bats to, engage in courtship behavior and raise their young.
4 of the 5 elements for a successful certified backyard wildlife habitat really seem to make sense. Food, water, a place to live and raise young. But sustainable gardening practices? How does that help? Stick around because after the break, we'll show you.
And now for some more dirt. Habitats that attract insects attract bats. In an average evening, a bat can eat up to how many insects? A, 3,000, B, 7,000, or C, 100,000. We'll be right back with the answer.
Michigan is a wonderful place to live and a great place to build a business. Like TJ Technologies, they're revolutionizing the modern-day battery for NASA, transportation, defense, and everyday use. It's cool. While competitors moved overseas, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation helped TJ with all the incentives they needed to succeed right here in Michigan. You know what? They could do the same for you. So give us a call or check our website today. Wherever in the world you compete, Michigan can give you the upper hand.
Water. We take our showers with it. We make our coffee with it. But we rarely tap its true potential and just let it be itself. Flowing freely into clean lakes, clear streams, and along more freshwater coastline than any other state in the country. Come realize water's true potential. Dive in to the waters of pure Michigan. Your trip begins at michigan.org.
And now we're back with the dirt on bats. In an average evening, a bat can eat up to B, 7,000 insects. And that's the dirt.
Welcome back. The steps you take in creating and maintaining your backyard habitat have an impact, positive or negative, on your yard, the insects and animals that visit, and on the surrounding neighborhood. That's why it's important to landscape with conservation in mind.
I think we all need to be better stewards of our planet and break away from this dependency on chemicals. It's bad for the environment, it's bad for you, your family, and it's bad for all of nature.
Once again, native plants are a good way to go. They require little to no watering, which in itself is water conservation. Gardening without fertilizers or pesticides keeps harmful chemicals out of the soil and water. And who wants to drink fertilizer? Buying a manual or electric lawnmower and other yard tools will decrease the amount of pollution you create in your yard and community. The backyard wildlife habitat does not necessarily need to be in the backyard. They can be at schools, parks, even places of business. For example, the Detroit Science Center, together with the National Wildlife Federation, built a perfect demonstration of an urban habitat for the residents nearby.
Right here at Peck Park, this was a partnership in connection with the Detroit Science Center, where we were looking at engaging children and their families and connecting with nature and outdoors, and looking at what the Detroit Science Center does so well inside and having an opportunity to take that science learning outdoors. So this was a really unique partnership for us to lend and leverage our habitat resources and wildlife knowledge to help them develop a beautiful demonstration habitat garden at Peck Park, which is actually a habitat of exceptional merit, and it incorporates all of the components that we talked about: the food, the water, the cover, and the places to raise young. It has a natural water flowing stream that has a pump built underground. It's a really unique feature. It's got a bat box. So there are numerous benefits. It becomes an outdoor classroom if you're a family that has children, where you can start getting them excited about wildlife and nature and inspire that curiosity and ooh and ah when they see the butterfly, land on a plant in their yard.
Making the connection between the outdoors and the classroom is a great way to get kids outside and interacting with the environment. This plants the seeds for them to become better stewards of the environment when they're older. Creating a safe and natural habitat for the local flora and fauna has just as many benefits for the builders as it does for the new residents.
You need to have a place for wildlife to have food, water, shelter, and a place to raise their young. So say if you have the food plant, say like parsley or fennel, which is an herb, and you get the black swallowtail butterfly to lay its eggs on it, and then you have some nectar sources, a lot of wild plants, but even domestic plants like zinnias or buddleias, which are butterfly bushes. The black swallowtail can feed itself, and it'll have a place to lay its eggs, and the young, of course, raise themselves, but they can do their whole life cycle right in your backyard. My old rule of thumb is, and of course, and I didn't invent this term, but if you plant it or you build it, they will come, and certainly with wildlife, that happens.
For those of you that are new to gardening or would just like to learn more about the National Wildlife Federation's Certified Backyard Habitat Program, check out their website at nwf.org/backyard. Everything you've seen today may seem like it takes a lot of effort, but really it can be as simple as choosing plants that provide benefit to wildlife in addition to looking beautiful. The birds, butterflies, and other critters will thank you by making your backyard their new home. So until next time, take care of yourself and the environment and wildlife.